All right. We are on chapter 12,
No.
the Witch Wardrobe.
Do we have to do this?
Oh, yeah. So we're going to read this chapter. You're going to take notes, and there's going to be a short quiz at the end of the chapter.
Mr. Jordan,
Yes.
I have the book with me. Can I just read from that?
Yeah, you can read from
Yeah.
that.
I read from it too.
It's okay. Yeah, you can do that.
No, I'm not doing it because I don't have the book. So.
You can read off the screen. You guys can see the screen.
Yeah,
right?
I know. Yeah, I can see it.
And
So-
you can pinch it bigger.
I know. I'm trying to, but it just goes back. Why?
All
Why
right.
is wait? What?
Going to be 963.
Wait. Why
Chapter
is
12. Peter's first battle.
why is while like capitalized? Sort of.
I think it's just because you know what? I don't know. I'm not going to tell you that I know.
Because it's always at the first of the chapter.
Maybe.
No, because
I was like,
it's always like a giant W, and then it has like a little H. And then,
that's true.
Well, mine is like,
All right.
while the dwarf and the witch is all capitalized for me.
Me too.
While
Oh,
the
that's-
dwarf and
that's-
the white witch were saying this, miles away, the beavers and the children were walking on hour after hour into what seemed a delicious dream. Long ago, they had left the coats behind them, and by now, they had even stopped saying to one another, "Look, there's a kingfisher," or "I say, bluebells," or "What was that lovely smell?" or "Just listen to that thrush." They walked on in silence, drinking it all in, passing through patches of warm sunlight into cool green thickets and out again into wide mossy glades where tall elms raised the leafy roof far overhead, and then into dense masses of flowering currant and among hawthorn bushes where the sweet smell was almost overpowering. So we remember last chapter at the end, all the snow starts melting off the trees and off the ground because winter is ending, right? So winter is ending is foreshadowing what? If the witch is
The witch's power is going away.
right, so why is the witch's powers going away? Because who's getting closer?
Aslan?
What's
Ding, ding, ding. Correct.
Ding, ding,
Good job.
ding.
They had been just as surprised as Edmund when they saw the winter vanishing and the whole wood passing in a few hours or so from January to May. They hadn't even known for certain, as the witch did, that this was what would happen when Aslan came to Narnia. But they all knew that it was her spells which had produced the endless winter, and therefore they all knew when this magic spring began that something had gone wrong, and badly wrong, with the witch's schemes. And after the thaw had been going on for some time, they all realized that the witch would no longer be able to use her sledge. After all, they didn't hurry so much, and they allowed themselves more rest and longer ones. They were pretty tired by now, of course, but not what I'd call bitterly tired. Only slow and feeling very dreamy and quiet inside, as one does when one is coming to an end of a long day in the open. Susan had a slight blister on one heel. They had left the course of the big river some time ago, for one had to turn a little to the right, that meant a little to the south, to reach the place of the stone table. Even if this had not been their way, they couldn't keep to the river valley once the thaw began. For with all the melting snow, the river was soon in flood. A wonderful, roaring, thundering, yellow flood, and the path would have been underwater. Oh, should we mute ourselves? And now the sun got low, and the light got redder, and the shadows got longer, and the flowers began to think about closing. Not long now, said Mr. Beaver, and began leading them uphill across some very deep, springy moss. It felt nice under their tired feet. In a place where only tall trees grew, very wide apart, the climb, coming at the end of the long day, made them all pant and blow. And just as Lucy was wondering whether she could really get to the top without another long rest, suddenly they were at the top, and this is what they saw. They were on a green open space from which you could look down on the forest spreading as far as one could see in every direction, except right ahead. There, far to the east, was something twinkling and moving. By gum, whispered Peter to Susan, the sea. In the very middle of this loop, or this open hilltop, was the stone table. It was a great, grim slab of gray stone supported on four upright stones. It looked very old, and it was cut all over with strange lines and figures that might be letters of an unknown language. They gave a curious feeling when they looked at them. The next thing they saw was a pavilion pitched on one side of the open place. So a pavilion is something is like a cover over something, right? So have you ever seen like a play structure and it has like a cover over the top of it, like a sun cover? That would be a pavilion. So they got to this table, which is like this giant stone table where they're supposed to meet Aslan, and then there's a pavilion over the top. Where am I? Oh yeah. A wonderful pavilion it was, and especially now when the light of the setting sun fell upon it, with sides of what looked like yellow silk and cords of crimson and tent pegs of ivory, and high above it on a pole, a banner which bore a red rampant lion fluttering in the breeze, which was blowing in their faces from the far off sea. While they were looking at this, they heard a sound of music on their right, and turning in that direction, they saw what they had come to see. Aslan stood in the center of a crowd of creatures who had grouped themselves around in the shape of a half moon. There were tree women there, well women, dryads, naiads, as they used to be called in our world, who had stringed instruments. It was they who made the music. There were four great centaurs. The horse part of them was like a huge English farm horse, and the man part was like stern but beautiful giants. There was also a unicorn, and a bull with the head of a man, and a pelican, and an eagle, and a great dog. And next to Aslan stood two leopards, to whom one carried his crown and the other his standard.
Mr. Jordan,
Wild crowd to see. Yes.
I have a picture of the stone table.
Okay. What does it look like?
Here, I'll show you.
Oh.
Mr. Jordan. Mr. Jordan, at the end of this chapter, wait, are we taking notes?
Yes, because we have a short quiz. It's only, I think, 7 questions. So.
Is this 5th and 6th grade?
Yeah.
Or
And
is it just
Talia,
fifth?
what he means by quiz, this is like what we normally do.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's nothing too crazy. Don't worry. But as for Aslan himself, the beavers and the children didn't know what to do or say when they saw him. People who have not been in Narnia sometimes think that the thing cannot be good and terrible at the same time. If the children had ever thought so, they were cured of it now. For when they tried to look at Aslan's face, they just caught a glimpse of the golden mane and the great royal solemn overwhelming eyes. And then they found they couldn't look at him and went all trembling. Go on, whispered Mr. Beaver. No, whispered Peter, you first. No, sons of Adam before animals, whispered Mr. Beaver back again. Susan, whispered Peter, what about you? Ladies first. No, you're the eldest, whispered Susan. And of course, the longer they went on doing this, the more awkward they felt. Then, at last, Peter realized that it was up to him. He drew his sword and raised it to salute and hastily saying to the others, come on, pull yourselves together. He advanced to the lion and said, we have come, Aslan. Welcome, Peter, son of Adam, said Aslan. Welcome, son, Susan and Lucy, daughter of Eve. Welcome, he beaver and she beaver. His voice was deep and rich, and somehow took the fidgets out of them. They now felt glad and quiet, and didn't seem awkward to them to stand and say nothing. But where is the fourth? Asked Aslan. He has tried to betray them and join the White Witch. Oh, Aslan, said Mr. Beaver, and then something made Peter say, that was partly my fault, Aslan. I was angry with him, and I think that helped him to go wrong. And Aslan said nothing either to excuse Peter or to blame him, but merely stood looking at him with great unchanging eyes. And it seemed to all of them that there was nothing to be said. Dear brother.
Yeah,
Please,
this
Aslan
thing's not
said,
working.
can anything be done to save Edmund? All shall be done, said Aslan, but it may be harder than you think. And then he was silent again for some time. Up to that moment, Lucy had been thinking how royal and strong and peaceful his face looked. Now it suddenly came into her head that he looked sad as well. But next time, that expression was quite gone. The lion shook his mane and clapped his paws together. Terrible paws, thought Lucy, if he didn't know how to velvet them, and said, meanwhile, let the feast be prepared. Ladies, take these daughters of Eve to the pavilion and minister to them. When the girls had gone, Aslan laid his paw and thought it was velveted. And though it was velveted, it was very heavy on Peter's shoulder and said, come, son of Adam, and I show you a far off sight of a castle where you are to be king. And Peter, with his sword still drawn in his hand, went with the lion to the east and to the hilltop. There, a beautiful sight met their eyes. The sun was setting behind their backs. That meant that the whole country below them lay in the evening light. Forests and hills and valleys, and winding away like a silver snake, the lower part of the great river. And beyond all this, miles away, was the sea, and beyond the sea, the sky, full of clouds, which were just turning rose color with the reflection of the sunset.